Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee with Michael Horowitz, which Michael Horowitz will testify before on Monday. And in fact, Senator, you were just giving me some details on that and some things that you'll hit. Let's start now with the nomenclature of broke from procedure. And what we're learning, it's almost like leak to leak, like we learn a lot of things here in Washington, apparently. Your first thoughts on that?
Well, of course, I hadn't read the report. My staff is being briefed as you and I talk, along with the White House. And we're going to have a hearing 2 o'clock Monday. I have heard it reported. I think it took about 12.7 seconds to leak. So right. I'm told that the conclusion is Mr. Comey didn't follow protocol, but he wasn't biased. I've got to read that in context. I do know this. Usually, whether someone is biased or not is a question for a jury, not necessarily the report writer, though I certainly respect Mr. Horowitz's opinion. I think he's very fair. But I will tell you, nothing would surprise me here in La La Land in light of what we know has gone on in the past at the FBI. It breaks my heart. I think the average man and woman in the FBI, rank and file, they're part of the best law enforcement agency in the history of the world. But we had some folks in upper echelon over there that are rotten apples. All
right, so some news is breaking, and I do want to get your point of view about if it's not politics, what would the motivation be? We don't know. You want to read that report contextually to see what that is. The Washington Post is now reporting that in this batch of reported documents now from the IG, his report, newly revealed text messages from those former FBI employees when we first started to learn about bias at the FBI through their text messages. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, quote, "We are going to stop Trump from becoming president." That's part of the batch that's coming that gets revealed in this IG report.
Well, I don't know about the protocol part, but that's in Louisiana, we call that bias. We don't call that objective. And once again, I suspect that these issues will ultimately be referred to a U.S. attorney. And if it proceeds to trial, that'll be an issue for the jury. Look, I just want the facts. I'm not interested in spin, speculation, rumor. I'm interested in the facts and getting them out in front of the American people. Some of the bacon-wrapped shrimp crowd here in Washington thinks the American people aren't smart enough to figure it out. They are. I've said this before. The American people don't have time to read Aristotle every day. But if you give them the facts, they'll draw their own conclusions.
And when the American public does draw its own conclusions, what do you see the outcome of all of this? I
think we're going to determine, number one, Russia did try to influence on in our election. We know that. Number two, did they influence our election? I don't think so, and I don't know how anyone could prove that they did. All right, people have a multitude of reasons for voting that they do. The real issue is, was there illegal collusion? And if there was, let's report the facts and let chips fall where they may. But by God, let's wrap this thing up.
All right. So what I understand you're saying is you understand that Russia tried to interfere in the election.
Yeah, they did. There's no question.
Okay. But whether they actually succeeded in that is what you're looking at.
I don't think you can be proven one way or the other. I don't believe they influenced the outcome. And I don't think you can say, well, people voted this way because they read a Russian ad. That's silly.
All right. This IG report apparently brings fresh scrutiny to people like Loretta Lynch.
Yes.
Former AG, and Andrew McCabe, former Deputy Director at FBI.
We've invited all of them to our hearing on Monday. I understand that Mr. Comey is out of the country. Now, whether he's out of the country or left the country, I don't know.
We don't know where James Comey is right now.
We don't know where he is.
At least I don't know where he is.
Wow. I think Ms. Lynch, I think she turned us down, and Mr. McCabe wants immunity. And I'm not going to vote to give him immunity. I would love to have him come testify in front of God, country, and the American people what happened. But if he wants to escape prosecution in return for that, that's not a deal I'm willing to make.
Boy, I tell you, Senator Kennedy, all eyes on this report as it comes out, because it sure sounds like there are a lot of people who might not want to talk.
Well, let's let the chips fall where they may. Now, and let me say it again. The FBI is the premier law enforcement agency in the world. I'm talking about the rank and file. But it's clear that we may still have, I don't know, some folks at the upper echelon who were biased. And there was a little hanky-panky in the 2016 election. And we're going to get to the bottom of it and find out about it. And they'll be held accountable.
Senator Kennedy from the great state of Louisiana. It's nice to be in your town today.
Yeah, I love Louisiana. It's part of America, unlike Washington, D.C.
Yeah, well, I'm in that town with you today. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate your time.